Hey party people, welcome back to MVM, and I am like really over the moon excited about being back behind the camera talking about these games. I've been playing a lot of adventure board games, like dungeon crawler type games. I have opinions on all of them. I want to share those with you as we close out the fourth quarter. Just give me some time. It's big. It takes a lot of time to go through these games, and hopefully I give you something, an informed opinion as these Kickstarters come in and as these big ones are coming to retail and things of that nature. Steamforged sent me their 2 new standalone boxes for Dark Souls. There's a second edition of the Dark Souls base board game, but these are 2 standalones that have the second edition rules and some of the changes that are in there. So you have an opportunity to either start here or start here. These are, like I said, their own separate boxes, or you can combine some of the stuff from each one of these and also from the base box. It just depends on some of the things that they have out there. There's a lot of information that they're sharing in blogs on their website. Check that stuff out. Now, on my left, I have the world of a painted world of Animus and the Tomb of Giants over here. This is kind of more of a kind of snowy area here, but this is like a classic dungeon crawl area. Let's talk about what's in here. You're going to have 1 to 3 players in here, so you have 3 characters in here. You have its own world tiles. You have one set of characters, so you have different enemies in there, a couple different types of enemies. They're kind of a couple big ones and a couple small ones. You have your mid boss, and then you have your final boss. So you have enough in there for a full campaign. We're talking about 3 or 4 hours of game night here, maybe a little bit more with more players, but I think with a 3-player setup, you're going to have a good 3-4 hours in there to kind of work your way through the game night here. Just depends on, you know, how long you take here. That's just in my opinion. I played it 1 player, I played it 2-handed, and I also just played it with just 1 player, taking my time, going back and forth. That's about the time that it had. So what is this game? You know, what is it, right? It's based off a video game. Dark Souls is known as a very hard game series. It is dark, gritty world, so that's me, yay. It's got, you know, these different weird things that come up to you. They have unpredictable movements, and then you fight these dark, like ridiculously huge bosses, and you're like, whoa, and then the meter comes across the screen and you're like, whoa, how am I gonna do this? And it's got wild erratic movements. It's like you could be attacked by a puppy dog in this game and you would die fast. It would like bash bite you. You're like, whoa, this is crazy. But that's the way this game is set up. This is the way the board games try to represent some of that in here, and you'll see it as we go along and talk about it. Also, for changes, just pay attention to these as we play along. So you're going to have scenarios. Now, I believe in the original version, you had to set out the whole dungeon here. You're not doing that in this one. You're actually going to go through these scenarios. They'll get harder as you go along. You'll have a main boss, and then you'll have your final boss. And this campaign board is a different setup as well from back in the day. You have your level 1, level 2, and level 3 cards, and that's based off these little icons that are on here. Your character boards. These are boards from both of the games, the standalone games. And then I have some enemies out, you know, just kind of put things out so you can see different things that are going on in the game. So when you go to a scenario, you're going to move this thing down here to 1, and you're going to take 2 cards from the deck there. I'm just not going to reach all the way out there. So you have these 2 cards. This card's going to tell you what your goal is, and this can be just attack. I mean, like kill a certain enemy, kill all enemies. It can be like go from here to there, pick something up, pull these levers, do different things. There's so many different conditions in this game, and it's not just the same old just kill everything in here. There's also conditions based on where you are. So for example, and this is the Aramis thing, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like this one has frostbite, so you can have things like that. You have eerie, so one of the things is called eerie. If you go on these traps, this is some of the traps here, and the cards tell you how to set all this stuff up. Like this one has traps. This would be covered in these trap things, and if I move on it and there's nothing there, fine, but if I move on one and there is something here, then I actually have to dodge it, like it's like dodge a trap. But the cool thing is in an eerie situation, you're going to flip this, and then you're going to look in the book and it'll tell you, hey, you replace that with this type of enemy, and then you put an enemy on there, and then that enemy is there as well. So it gives you a little bit of a hidden challenge and things of that nature. I really like the conditions and special rules that are in here, and it kind of keeps you on your toes in the game. But when you finish finish a scenario, you're going to have these different rewards. You're going to receive souls. Souls is the economy of the game. It is how you level up your characters and also how you purchase items as well. And you're going to have different inventory rewards. Basically, this is based on souls, or let's just say this first. Souls are based on player count plus whatever they say. But then the other rewards, you're going to be pulling something out of inventory, or you'll have to pull a specific card out of that deck and then shuffle it back up. So they give you a specific one. Like this one says, get a Kerkerus. Or the other one says, draw an event card. Now, when you finish these, when you finish an event, a scenario, you're going to draw an event card, and then it'll tell you what happens for the next one. Or it could be something that's instant that gives you, like an instant benefit. So, for example, this one says Forgotten Supplies. Choose a character. That character gets to flip all its character tokens to ready for the next scenario. There are ones that you have specific goals in there, and there are ones that are not in your favor, like this one. Add bleed to all enemy attacks during this encounter, and if the party completes this encounter, they receive a number of souls +2. So this is something that's good, but you're also going to have some pressure added to it. That's just give you a gist of what those are. This one right here, major bonus here, because this does change things up quite a bit. I like this quite a bit. So when you finish these, it's going to be just like this. You'll move on to the next scenario. You're going to wipe all this stuff off here. So you're going to wipe all your stamina. I'll talk about this in a minute, but you'll wipe all your stamina and all your injuries and stuff off, and then you'll move on to the next scenario. Now you have a choice. You have a choice to go to the campfire and whatnot. If you lose a scenario, you're going to have to go back. You're going to go here and you're going to be able to do some things. I'll get into that later. But you have to go back to the beginning if there's no shortcut. Some of these quests give you shortcuts so that you don't have to go back as far. So let's say I was here and I got a shortcut in the second one here. So let's say I got a shortcut here, here, and I wanted to go back to the campfire. I could. Or if I lost this scenario, I would have to go back here and start here and then fight my way back up to here and keep going. The catch is, just like the video game, if you don't know the video game, if you lose or you die on a certain area here, I'm just going to take some of these. You would take all of these and put this here. I'm actually just going to take all of it. You take all of these and you put here. And only one character has to die, by the way. Only one. All those souls would go there. You would have to go back and fight your way back up to there. But if you die before you get back, you lose all the souls, okay? So that sucks. It really hurts. So hopefully you'll have some things. You have better weapons and things like that, so you can just run through there and kick some butt and get back to where you are. That's how the scenarios work. In the middle, you will have a boss. That boss has its own setup card and things of that nature, so it'll show you how to set up for the boss. I have a boss card over here. Here it is. And that will go in the middle here. You've set up the boss tile, and then you would fight the boss. And that's how it works. You go to the end, you'll fight the same kind of idea. You'll have the bigger boss, and you'll have a tile set up for that. Now, what happens on the board here? So you have your different characters, and then you also have your different enemies. It'll tell you how to set them up. They will generally start out on these things here, on these little red parts, and then any extra little items or tokens that need to go on here will usually go on the purple, and then you'll end up on these orange spots. It'll tell you on the diagram where you end up. But generally, this is how it goes. The enemies will go first. Okay, so let me put this here. I'm doing all this shuffling around. The enemies will go first. So this enemy here, it'll tell you who they are and what they do on their turn. Enemies can attack from range or melee. It will tell you that on the card. But generally, when you're looking at this, it's going to tell you their health. It's going to tell you who they are, so you can pay attention to that on the card. It's also going to tell you what you need to do to dodge. This is going to tell you exactly, this little PlayStation pad is going to tell you whether they move forward, backward, things like that. You're going to be reading this from left to right. Around that pad, it's going to give you other things like, are they going to jump and land where you are? Are they going to attack the whole area? Are they targeting the person with the aggro token? Are they trying to barge you? And what is that damage if they do barge into you, like run through you, basically? So like this bone wheel, he's going to run, bump me, and then he's going to run and bump me again like that kind of thing like that. But as he's doing that, he's attacking me each time. So I need to defend each time. Now, what does that look like? So in the old one, I believe you had to just dodge which is, this is the dodge die, or you just defend. And you would defend based on whatever dice you have that were supposed to be from your armor or your shields or your sword or whatever, and you can defend. Just for sake of knowing, there's a black die, there's a blue die, and there's an orange die. These increase in chances and also hits. So I look at he runs into me, he's trying to hit me for 4. So I would basically look over here, it says I have a physical defense, which is a black, and then I look over in my dodge, and my dodge is 2, so I get 2 of these dice. I roll them together. Oh my geez. Okay, so here's a great example of what you don't want to happen. So what you're going to do is you look at this and you say, oh Lord, this is not good. I did not dodge, and I also did not defend. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put 2 defense on here. That's pretty bad, right? So what I'll do is I will add this defense and this attack here, and it's going to give me 2 more little injuries here. I'm going to put that in there like that. You stuff it in your board, and then that's that. And then he would attack me again, so maybe this is not good, right? So then I would roll, and ooh, thankfully I got 2 dodge, because it takes 2 dodge to dodge this bone wheel attack. So there you go. That's really how the enemy works. Some of these shoot from range. It's no different. Some of them will try to run away from you. Others will try to aggressively attack you. That's how that one works. Now on your turn, and this is how the round goes, all the enemies go, then one of you go. All the enemies go, then one of you go. So it's a pretty brutal situation as we go further into the game. But in the beginning, you're gonna have 1 or 2 enemies, but just don't take that lightly, because you can die very quickly in this game. You get a little risky with the stamina. Now on your turn, oh, and I should say, when you are defending, if you do want to move away, it does cost you 1 stamina. You can put 1 stamina on there. Now, at the beginning of your turn, let's say I'm the mercenary, so let's say the sorcerer went before, you're going to have the opportunity to, you're going to get the aggro token first. You can switch your gear around. All the characters that are with you can move 1 space if they so choose. I'm just trying to think of all the other stuff you can do. So yeah, and then you're going to refresh 3 stamina. So the stamina is how you attack and how you move about. Like I said, you're going to be able to move. You can use a stamina, but you're going to recover 3 of these. You pop these out like that. Okay. All right, so now you have no stamina issues. What you don't want in this game is to have your stamina and your health to cross, okay? If they cross, you die. And if you die, you lose the scenario. So now that I have that wide open, thankfully, right? It says I can move 1 for free. I can move 1 for free, or I can pay an extra stamina and I can just move as I want, but I pay extra stamina for each one I move. Now for my attack, I actually have to look at my card. The card will say what if I have a 0 stamina attack, 1 stamina attack, 3 stamina, 5, it depends. This could be a magical, this could be physical, but you're looking at these cards. They're very thematic. Like I have these big drums here, you know, so I don't have a shield. I'm just do, you know, like that kind of thing like that. Or I may have a big, gigantic great sword, so it takes a lot more stamina. A big swing, but I get to chuck, you know, maybe some orange dice because they're pretty heavy on the attack there. But for me, I'm just going to go ahead and, I'm going to move this one in here, move 1, if that's free, and then I'll attack. And I'll look at this and it says for 0, I can just roll these 2 here. So I'll roll those 2. I'll look at the attack here, that's 3, and then I get a +1 here, and then I have a +1 here as well. So that's a total of 5. And then I just look over at my bone wheel. The bone wheel only has 1 health. It has a 1 physical damage shield. So of course I get that through, it dies. And this is also your little magic. So you can see some are more magic resistant, some are more physical resistant. But yeah, this one's dead. And that's my turn, okay? So then all the enemies activate again. So maybe the crow comes in and attacks this person that's closest to him. They kind of do like that. It just depends on their AI and what they do. Now there are things that I can do for free on free actions on my turn. So I have these tokens here and you're gonna flip them over as you use them. But this one here allows me to re-roll a die. If I have an ember token, if I get hit for more than 3, it reduces damage. If I die with this, then it goes away. So this will help me along the way if I started getting pounded by certain enemies that are bigger and stronger, like that bone wheel that just beat me up pretty bad. And then this one here, this Estus Flags, of course, is famously in the Dark Souls game. You drink it, it takes your stamina down, and it refreshes all this health. So I could pop all this out if I flip this over and pop everything out of here. And then these are all do not get refreshed until you go back to your camp. So you got to wait till you go back to your camp to refresh all these things. This one here allows you to use your ability on here. And of course, every character has their own ability on there. On your character board, it'll also tell you other things like their stats here, and these are the things you have to upgrade in order to use certain weapons and items in the game. But this also will tell you like your aggro and things like that nature. So if it's a tie between you two, who is it going to attack first? Things like that. And I should even say for the enemies, the actual order of activation is on here too. I kind of glossed over that. It's not a full-on rules video, folks. But that's the general turn. They go, all of them go, you go, all of them go, you go, that kind of thing like that. And it's pretty ridiculous. Now, let's just say you have finished the scenario and you go, hey, before I fight this mid-boss, I want to go back to the camp. I want to go back to the fire camp, or you died. You would dial this down 1, and you only get a certain amount of these, and this is how you can lose the game ultimately before you finish the game. So you may get like 3 for a 2-player game. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's 3. And you're going to go back, and all the souls that you have, you can spend those if you want. You can spend as much as you want, and you can spend them on your board. What you're going to do is you're going to be going up the tiers on these things by paying a certain amount of souls. So from base to tier 1 is 2 souls, then you have 4 souls to tier 2, and then 8 to tier 3. I hope that I got that all right. But what you do is you punch these out. I'm not going to punch these out. You're going to punch them out, flip them over to the side, and then you're paying attention to the stats that you have to make sure you have enough to do what you need to do. You can also go to this smithy over here. You'll flip over 4 cards and you'll pay souls in order to get one of the cards there. You'll also have items that you just get from different quests, different scenarios that you'll end up having in this deck. So you may already have what you need, but it gets pretty like you get a lot. You get an overflow of those items. You got to decide to add upgrades to your weapons and your armor if they have certain things, and it gets juicier as you go along. But that's pretty much what you do on your campaign board. It's a little bit of a different setup here from what I've seen in the old game, so you can get a gist of what's going on there. Finally, we're going to start fighting some bosses, okay? So here we go. Now the boss comes in. I'm going to take all these off here, and then we're just going to flip this. Boom. We flip it over, and there's a boss, okay? Let's say we're fighting this heavy blade here. Boom. He comes in. We got our guys here. Okay, we're gonna move them off to the side, and there's a couple things here. So we're gonna be fighting off against this heavy knight boss. The heavy knight boss is in the middle. You're gonna have his setup here. It tells you where he's set up. I don't have this exact tile that's right there for it, but yeah, this is one of the tiles you have set up. It's gonna tell you their special conditions. It's also gonna tell you what he does. It'll tell you his health. Each boss has its own dial. This is a dial for the final boss. You're gonna put it to the final boss number, that number, and then it's also gonna tell you this heat number. I'll tell you why that's important. And then it'll tell you your physical distance, resistance, and your magic resistance, and also its abilities that's in there. Each character, each of these enemies comes with a deck. You're going to get as many cards as it says, and that'll be their deck. When it's their turn, you're going to flip over a card. You're going to flip over a card like so. And when you flip over that card, it's going to tell you the same idea what's going on here. But there's a difference. These enemies have quadrants, and they're going to move towards you and face those quadrants and different things of that nature. But there also may be a weak spot. So if you're ever in the enemy's weak spot, you know, I realize that they're attacking in arcs and stuff like that too. Because this, of course, he has a big sword. He's going to be, you know, kind of thing like that. I hope you like the sound effects. Anyway, you move in here and you move into one of their quadrants and you attack. You may also get, a black die added to it. And some of them will say, no, you don't get a black die added to it. Little spoiler there. I'm not going to give it to you all the way there, but if you know, you know. But you're going to have these different attacks that add into it. And when these cards get flipped over, you're going to see the order of the cards, because just like in Aeon's End, when this deck gets done, you're just going to flip it. So you know the order of the enemies attacking, right? Then when you get to a certain number, so this is 25 health, when it gets down to 15, you're going to take these special like heat cards. There's 3 of them, I think there's 3 of them per character, and then you're going to shuffle that into whatever cards haven't been played already. So let's say it's like that. You're going to shuffle this card into that little thing here, and it changes up the predictability of the enemy. It's going to maybe be a better attack, a bigger attack, who knows, but that's kind of what it is. All right, so you have this boss deck. this is one of the major pluses of this game to me. This system can't go away. Hopefully it's in Elden Ring, because this right here is like one of the best things in the game, is having this boss that has like some unpredictability and this kind of predictability, but also unpredictability as well. This just works for me right here. But generally, you're going to take out the boss, and when you do take out a boss, they're going to become a campfire, and then you'll continue on to more tougher missions. You'll eventually fight the main boss, but that's kind of how this game goes. I think I covered everything, so let's just get to the review. Let's just keep it real. This right here is, it's all over the place for me. So let me go ahead and start with the negatives here. First thing here is this punch board. The reason why I was deciding whether when I was doing this review or not to put the pieces in there or not, because you have to actually punch these in and out, punch them in and out. And I thought I wanted to show you that because I think it's just not good. It's poor. It's a poor choice. I like the small setup area for this, and this setup can be small, but like I don't like this part right here. You don't find out that you're not supposed to punch these pieces out and flip them over until page 14. And this right here is on like page 2 or 3. The problem here is that what if you're a punch it person? You just like punch all the stuff, you're like punching and organizing, putting things in the baggies. And then it says, don't punch these out. Well, here's the deal. There's no pictures of how to put these things back in. So if you don't see that until page 14, you're like, wait, how do I put these back? Uh-oh, got a problem. So you're gonna have to read the rule book before you open these things. Please read the rule book. With that, there's a couple things that are not as Soulsy with this game. So you're gonna refresh your health and your stamina at the end of a scenario. Well, the problem with that is that it's kind of forgiving. If you're going from one scenario to the next scenario, you should kind of feel like a little bit of pressure. So like, hey, I'm low on health and I've used my Estus flask. I need to go somewhere and I need to go to a campfire. And that's a tough decision because you only get so many of them. That would feel more Soulsy to me. This is quite forgiving. That's just something I think about, and maybe you can house rule that stuff in as well. Also, the items. The items get so good. They get so good that sometimes you get such a good combination that you can fly right through this game. And that goes back to like going backwards, which makes the game a grind, which the game, Dark Souls is a grind. The video game's a grind. This game has a little bit of the grindiness to it. But if you go back, you're fighting missions that are so easy. You got to set them up over and over again. I mean, I'm sorry, man. Some people may skip that stuff. Some people may not. That's up to you. That's a choice you may make. But I'm going to tell you, sometimes I skipped them, sometimes I didn't. And just kind of went right back to where I was and collected the souls. Because it's like, hey, I set up one tile, blast, done. I don't know if it's worth doing all that, but I'm just going to tell you that that's a thing, and it may cut down your game night time, so you may want to consider that as well. But I found that some of these they're too easy, and when I got to levels 2 and 3, they got harder. They definitely got harder, and the bosses are definitely difficult. But sometimes with the combination of having awesome items, maybe drawing from this event deck over here that is really good, you get a plus something or whatever, you're getting kind of a nice little easy ride all the way to the bosses. And that cannot be so Soulsy feeling. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Or maybe, you know, when you get good at a certain point in Dark Souls, you kind of just get through it. So that's something, there's something to that as well. Even with the dice rolls rolling your defense and dodge, I think sometimes people will not like that rule and they'll just decide to do one or the other. That's up to you. But those are the things that I don't like about the game. The things that I do like a lot, these turns are very quick. They're very quick. It feels very Souls-like with all the enemies going. You feel the pressure and intensity there. There's that intensity, which is the core of what Dark Souls is. So it does feel thematic to the game no matter what. There is that in there. I'm not saying it's not thematic. I also like those event cards because the randomness, and it changes up even on top of the conditions. And I like that the conditions are not the samey all the time. There's enough in each deck to kind of keep it going. Yeah, I think this boss thing is something that's definitely worth keeping. I would like to see it in more games as well. But I'm going to close out with something that I don't necessarily I don't talk about too much, and that's value proposition. So in each one of these boxes, you have 1 to 3 characters. You have 3 characters in here. The base box, Dark Souls box, has 4 characters, I think it has several enemies, so I have several enemies, but it also has several mid bosses and then several end bosses in it. That's a lot, and I think it's only like 20 bucks more than these. So I would almost tell you to go with the real base box version because it's got the most stuff in it and it's the most bang for your buck. It would feel more like a Kickstarter purchase, whereas these are good, but they're sort of lean on content. And I played this before I went to Essen. I played it after I went to Essen, and then I took a break, and then I played it again. And when I came back to these, I wasn't tired of them, but I'm glad that I own both, right? And that's the key. It's like, it's just not, I don't know if it's enough content to keep you going. 109 is a lot, all right? So if you told me these were together in one box, I'd be like, good to go. No, don't pump the brakes. But on their own, that's something you're gonna have to decide if there's enough in there. And with that, I should give you a score, right? So you have an idea how I feel. This game is okay. It's not gonna blow me away. I may actually add the Dark Souls base box, so I just have a ton of content to mix together. And you're gonna have to wait to see if they have some more of that content to explain to you how they're gonna backwards compatibility, or if they're coming out with upgrade packs to match these card layouts and different things of that nature. That's not something I want to dig too deep into. But for right now, I'm going to give the game a 6. I think it's okay. I think it has some good things going on, but I would like to see some improvements, and hopefully Elden Ring does not lean exactly on what they did here. I doubt it. It's probably going to be a lot better. So with that, party people, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Feel free to like and subscribe. I hope I helped you make an informed decision today. Of course, I can't tell you what to do with your money. And with that, party people, take care. Have a wonderful day.